I'm at 3600 Honeybrook Avenue in Dayton, Ohio, doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for any structural issues, root intrusion, bellies, anything that may be of concern to the buyer. The access point is an outside clean out here that is cast iron, and so there is cast iron under the floor in the house, but we won't be able to inspect that. This has a sweep, so it does force us to go out towards the street. In most cases, most of the issues we find on these are between the house and the main. Cast iron is also kind of a strange animal as far as you don't really, it's hard to judge their, the life expectancy. I mean, it's roughly 75 years, but but without like visible spots, you can't really, unless there's visible holes. Cast iron is always pretty ugly because it does rust, and so you can never tell how thin or thick the lines are. I just say that because even with an inspection on the inside, there is always, you're kind of looking for functionality and stuff, and because it does naturally rust, you always have a little bit of uncertainty there. Another thing is, because of that, I always make sure to tell people that never use wet wipes. They can catch on the rust buildup and cause backups in a perfectly healthy line. And with cast iron, because it does have the rust on it, you can see here that it just looks kind of ugly. And so we are running water to test the fixtures. The only other way to be able to do an inspection on the interior stuff would be to possibly get on the roof, but it is raining pretty well here, and so it's probably about 30 feet from the front of this house to where the line is with the back-to-back bathrooms. And so that's about the extent of the line on the inside as far as the main line. Basically comes from the bathrooms, goes straight out to this point. And so you can see once we've gotten out, I can zero out the counter here at the base of this, so that we can tell how far we are out from the clean out. Well, flipped over on itself here. Tried to zero it out and it flipped over on itself here. I had it going. Well, I had it going the first time. Now all of a sudden it doesn't want to make that turn. It keeps flipping over on itself. There we go. So we're out only about 2 feet, and then it switches over to clay. This is a normal material for the age of the house. But one of the most common things we find in clay lines is root intrusion, and it's usually due to the fact that you have connections. Basically, the sections of pipe, when they put them in, they're only about 3 feet of pipe, and so There's just a lot of chances for roots to get in. A lot of times the packing in between the connections breaks down over the years depending on what the material they used and the timing. So when that happens, roots can get in, and it's nothing they love more than water and fertilizer all in one place. So see how blurry this is. I think they quit running the water. So maybe I have to ask them to start running the water again. But if nothing else, a lot of times we'll make it all the way out to the main. And then as we're pulling back, we can see a lot better. This tends to happen because of as you're pushing stuff up in front of the lens, and so it gets on the lens, and when you're pulling back, you don't have that issue. So I haven't seen any signs of any problems, but cast iron, when it rusts, it makes that almost like a black tint to the water. It's almost like liquid charcoal, and so when it gets on there, it's pretty rough. So we made it all the way to the main. I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to go make sure that there's a bunch of water running so we can kind of witness the functionality of the line on the way back, and also it helps to rinse the camera off. So I'm going to pause the video for a second. Okay, we got some water running. I'm going to wait for it to show up. Shouldn't take very long. And so you can see it's about 62 feet from the base of the clean out to the main, which is in the center of the street. We're pretty close to the center of the street. But we just want to make sure we can see a lot better on the way back. And even with the blurriness, I could see at least see well enough to notice that didn't look like there was any tree roots, and it's a good sign. Since there's a pretty large tree here right in the center of the front yard, and so normally you at least find a little bit of intrusion, so it's something to just be aware of for the future, that they're in the coming years. But you do have a tree basically right over top of the sewer line. What that means that all the joints on the clay have held up really well over the years. So I'll be doing that. I'll probably be shaking the camera a decent amount there, trying to splash clean water up on the front of the camera now to make sure it stays clean. Make sure we're getting good looks at all the seams in the joints here. You can see how this is where the line dove to get down, probably right about the curb, to where it could dive down to get down towards the depth of the main. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner, it tells the angle of the camera, so it lets you know how big a pitch the line has as it drops. Looks really good. I was worried, as I talked about, that we would find a bunch of roots in here with this tree sitting right in the middle of the yard, but this line is, all these connections have held up great. And you can see that camera lens is only about a ½ inch off the bottom of the pipe, so even having the water running hasn't even got up to the level of the camera. So water's escaping at a really good pace. A little bit of something there. Hard to tell if that's just mineral deposits. Doesn't look like it's hanging down much. So there may be the very, very beginnings of a little tiny bit of roots, but I didn't see anything where I could actually identify it as that. It could just be mineral deposits getting in from groundwater. We are back to the clean out already. So, the line looked wonderful. I didn't find any defects in the exterior line. Again, we weren't unable to inspect about 30 feet of pipe inside the house due to lack of access. Obviously, the only access here is a floor clean out, or sorry, outside ground clean out. And just to note too, the way this is, it was just sitting on top. It has a little rubber boot, and it is just sitting on top of the access point, and just something to be aware of when you're working around this, that you don't want to hit it off center, or you may want to see if they could attach this better. It is keeping stuff out, but you just want to make sure that it's on here, and you don't get a bunch of mulch and stuff down in the line, because you can easily knock it loose. It's not actually physically attached. It just has like a little foot, like a rubber boot, kind of a foot, and it's laying over top of the opening. So as long as you don't mess with it, it is keeping debris out. But when you're working around it, just kind of be aware that you could knock it out, and when that's open, you don't want a bunch of debris and stuff getting down in there. So, but the line looked great. The clay all the way out looked beautiful. I didn't find any issues at all. The interior, again, was unable to locate, or unable to inspect, but it is functioning at time of inspection. All the fixtures have been tested, and everything is flowing free and clear. And so I would only suggest that you make sure you only flushing toilet paper and stuff down, just due to the nature of cast iron in general. But the outside line looked beautiful. So that'll end the inspection at 3600 Honeybrook Avenue in Dayton, Ohio.